Well, hello guys, and I'm working from home, as you know, so it's great to join you on the show. Though I've been thinking about the president's speech last night, and so many Ghanaians are excited about the things he had to say. It's almost like Christmas has come in April for many Ghanaians, but it has raised a number of questions for me, about 8 to 10 questions, and suggestions in some cases. And I thought I would share them with everybody. Let's see if you can add to them, or maybe you have some answers to a few of the questions I may raise. The first one is about the package for the health workers. Very exciting package. It's full of so many goodies, for those who are on the front line. For example, we're going to get 50% of their salaries added on to them as bonus. There's no tax on their salary. Insurance is going to be given, free transport, 150 Ghana cedis for those who are doing the contact tracing. And look, they all deserve this. In fact, they deserve even more. But I'm wondering, what does it mean for the private sector? They are not included in this as far as I can tell. But they are also on the front line. If you think about it, many of the contacts that are being traced are people who have either come from abroad or have been in contact with those who have come from abroad. It's easy to imagine that a number of them might go to private healthcare centers if they start to feel any symptoms. Also, the hospitals have their own traffic coming through. So the question is, if they are not getting such incentives, will it end up being a disincentive for them? Could we start to see some of these private hospitals having workers not very willing to risk their lives on the front line simply because the package for them is not as great as it could be? Point number 2, ECG and Ghana Water Company. This is a bit of a tongue-in-cheek one. I was just thinking when I heard the president ordering them to provide uninterrupted supply, I was thinking, hey, does it mean that these companies can actually provide uninterrupted supply, but they've just been waiting to be ordered to do so? Of course, I know that it's more of an economic situation, but it raises the question, where are we going to get the money to fund the constant supply of electricity and water? The debt in the electricity, the power sector alone is over 1 billion, Ghana cedis. And how much money do we actually have available to fight COVID-19? How much of it can we spend on keeping the lights and the water on throughout? The soft loans, this is point number 3 for me. I would like to know how they can be accessed, who qualifies for them as well. Number 4, we hear that 15,384 of the traced contacts have been tested, and we are waiting for the results. Now, those results will determine whether the president extends the lockdown or not. So I am wondering, what's the threshold? What will be the minimum number of positive results that will result in the president announcing an extension? Hot meals, this is point number 5 for me. Hot meals being distributed to people in the urban poor areas by NADMU. I'm wondering what the method of distribution is going to be, and how are we going to ensure that it is done equitably, fairly, that it's not only distributed to party members. NADMO is an organization that is famed for being populated with people who are party members. This is what happens, the reality of what happens in Ghana. So if they are party members and they are distributing in communities that they are familiar with, are they likely to favor party members over non-party members? And I'm not interested in a promise that they won't do so. I'm more interested in the mechanism that has been put in place to ensure that if somebody wants to do so, they cannot do it. Okay, if somebody wants to, favor certain people, they cannot do it. The other issue is about the domestic production of PPE. Another thing I was very happy to hear the president mention. Really good. Now, my question is, with the masks, we know that a number of them will be produced over the next couple of weeks. But my question is it N95 masks or is it the surgical masks? Because we know that it's the N95 masks that are needed by the frontline workers. So is that what we are manufacturing, or is it something else? Also, do we have the capacity to manufacture the ventilators, something which we know that if things get very critical, we will need lots of here in Ghana? Do we have the capacity to manufacture them, or are we relying on the less than 100 and hoping that we will get less than 100 serious cases, of COVID-19 in Ghana at a time? Right. Those who are innovating, the president was very good to mention them and commend them. Necessity is the mother. But my question is, are we just flowing them funds? What are we doing? The guy who has invented the barrel sinks, for example, how many of them have government ordered to use in the rural areas or in the urban poor areas or in the marketplaces where they are very, very much needed? So I'd like to know more about that. The 26 people who the president announced that they are in mandatory quarantine, but their second COVID-19 tests proved positive. I'm just wondering, when are we going to add those numbers to the national tally on the Ghana Health Service website? Because I don't see evidence that they've been added. Are they still part of the 124 total cases we have in Ghana, or are they yet to be added? Because those test results for the second test came in on Saturday and Sunday. So I'm wondering, on Saturday and on Sunday, I didn't see a spike of 26 cases on the Ghana Health Service website. So I can't assume that those 26 have been added. Also, speaking of that, that brings me to my final point. Can we start monitoring the testing process? You know, at the moment, what we know is that Noguchi, the KCCR, and I believe Kolebu are doing tests. Now, we hear the final outcomes from the Ghana Health Service. They say, we've got another 10 cases and, you know, a certain number of them are critical and so forth. But I think there is a need for another layer of accountability. It's not that we don't trust the Ghana Health Service, but you know, in our job as media, they say trust but verify. Okay, at the moment, the only source of information about the number of cases is the Ghana Health Service. They tell us and we accept it. So there's a need for an extra layer of checks. And I think that if Noguchi, KCCR, and Kolebu can be giving us daily updates of how many tests they've done, how many were positive, how many were negative, so that we can compare that to the tally that we are being given by Ghana Health Service. If the media can actually be present at Noguchi, at KCCR, at Kolebu, if indeed they are also doing testing, and check with them the number of tests that are done. This is important, okay, because the tests are expensive, as you know, and we have them in very limited supply, something like 50,000 in total. So we need to be able to keep an eye on how this is being done so that we can account properly to the people on how the testing is going ahead, so that it's not just a matter of the Ghana Health Service telling us some numbers and we accept them. We know they are doing a good job, we trust them, but we can't just leave it at trust. We have to create accountability. So these are my 10 points or questions about the President's directive, and I hope that we can get some answers from authorities. I miss you guys. I'll see you soon.